Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this session. My name is Paula Capo, and I'm part of the 2030 Commitment team here at AI National. I want to start off by recognizing or introducing a few of my colleagues who are on the call today. Many of you have probably corresponded with Matt Welker, who manages the 2030 Commitment. We recently had Charlotte join the team, so you'll be seeing much more of her. We're also lucky to have our dev team here with us today, Nico, Julian, Martin, and Gio, who are always working hard to make sure the DDX is working for you all. So happy to have them here today to answer your questions as well. Today we'll be presenting some of the changes to bulk upload, and Nico will be doing a live demo. So let's get started. So you guys know that there are 3 ways of inputting data into the DDX. You can do it through direct input, bulk upload, or via an energy modeling software. And that method varies between firm, depending on size, culture, etc. Today, we're focusing on bulk upload. As a reminder, only administrators in the DDX can use this functionality. So if you aren't able to see this or do the bulk upload, you might have to talk to someone at your firm to update your permissions. Before we get into what these changes are, I want to emphasize that these changes are not live currently. However, they will be live tomorrow morning. So you guys are getting a sneak peek of what's coming. Great. Okay, so we have a number of changes to the spreadsheet and the inputs for each column. First, we know that the reporting date caused some confusion last year, so we've replaced the reporting date column with reporting year. In order for your project to be submitted for 2021, it has to have a 2021 reporting year associated with it. We have a new energy modeling date to hopefully help you all keep track of when the energy modeling was done for the project. So this is the date that the energy model was actually conducted. And then similarly, we added an embodied carbon modeling date. Both of these fields are optional. We have new energy modeling tool options, WFI passive, speed, BOPT, and passive house planning package. Let's see, in order to make things a little less confusing, we've separated fuel sources into separate columns, so you no longer have to create a string of fuel sources, which caused some issues. We also found that the yes/no columns were causing issues with submission, so we removed those. Now, if you include a PEUI in like the system, will assume yes on whether the project was energy modeled, or if you add renewable energy information, it'll assume yes for our renewable energy sources included in this design phase, etc. Speaking of renewable energy, we have 4 new renewable energy options: heat pump, geothermal, micro hydroelectric, and biomass. We also reduced the project types from 3, which used to be residential, non-residential, and interiors. And now there are only 2 of them: whole building and interiors. And lastly, we wanted to note that while last year we changed things a little bit on you guys, and anything that was like active with the design phase before 2020 would be pulled into the submission, given the experience we had this year, we've reverted that decision. And now, again, a project must have a 2021 date in order to be included. So just wanted to reiterate that. Let's see. Updates to energy codes. Okay, so I know many of you had been waiting for some updates, and we finally have them. We updated the spelling error in the Oregon Energy Efficiency Code. So before it said specially, and you had to have that error in your spreadsheet, but now we've added the T, so you can actually spell it right now. And then we have our new codes: IECC 2021, California Title 24 2019, ASHRAE 90.1 2019, the New York Stretch Code 2018, and ASHRAE 189.1 2020. And you can find that full list of codes and their equivalents on the help pages. So those are the major changes, but we wanted to go over a few like scenarios or instances to make sure that y'all are set up for success. So first of all, if you're importing projects with multiple use types, you can just add a new column and label it use type 2. And then add information there. You would also have to create a use type area 2 to dictate how much area you have. You can add as many use types as you need. If you only have one use type, you don't have to add the like one after use type 1. It can just be use type. Providing fuel source data instead of PEUI. So energy modeling data can be provided one of two ways for your project. You can either have like a single PEUI value or add fuel source values. With both ways, you have to also include the energy modeling tool and the modeling party. If you go down the fuel sources route, you would add the fuel sources to the respective columns in the bulk import file. They're the very last columns. For that data, the DDX will determine a PEUI value for you. It'll calculate it for you. So you don't write anything in the PEUI cell. Note that when you add your value for each of those fuel sources, the unit will be automatically added or indicated, or like as indicated in this chart. Those are the fuel sources that will be automatically assumed when you add a number. So you don't need to add a unit after the number. Also avoid adding commas to the numbers just to avoid any like weird formatting issues. And the last thing I'll note is that if you're not using a fuel source, just leave the cell blank. A fuel source can't be 0. So that'll give you an error as well. So when you do a bulk import, you need to calculate your own baseline instead of the DDX doing it for you. So if you have an internal database that you feel confident with, you can input that value. To calculate a baseline for US projects, we recommend using Zero Tool, which accounts for regional variations. You can also use specify a baseline using US use type national average. You can see part of that chart on the screen, but you can see the full chart in the help pages. Just note that those do not account for regional variations. And then for international projects, we recommend Edge Tool to obtain a baseline. You also need to calculate your target. So if you're using the 80% 2030 target that we have right now for a whole building project, you can use this formula that is not very elegantly written on here, but basically, like you see on the in the example, if your project is on row 2, you would do S2 minus parentheses S2 multiplied by 0.8 and parentheses, and that'll calculate the target for you. For interiors projects, you can use a similar formula, but just multiply by 0.25 in order to get that, in order to calculate. If you have a different target for your project for whatever reason, feel free to use that as well, but just a little help for your calculations. Nico will show you guys how to do this live, but just wanted to bring this up that there are 2 pathways to submit your portfolio. You can either submit your projects while you're doing your bulk upload. So like right under the box, it says portfolio submission, and you can do it in basically one step. For that, all the projects in your bulk upload will be submitted. So it won't take anything from, if you added projects from the UI, it won't bring those in. Alternatively, you can upload projects through bulk upload and then go through the traditional portfolio submission process. And that's at the top of the screen. You can see the tab says submit portfolio, and it'll take you to actually select the projects that you want to be included. We recommend that you use the first option and submit all at once to reduce, first of all, steps in submitting. It'll make it a little easier. It'll avoid possible complications, and you can avoid possibly forgetting to submit your portfolio after bulk importing, which sometimes happens. Um, Again, Nico will go a little bit more in depth in how those work. A few more tips and reminders to make your experience as smooth as possible. First, the column names are case sensitive, which means that if there's a weird capitalization, the system won't recognize the entire column. We use sentence case, which means that just the first letter of that column title should be capitalized. On the other hand, the inputs for in the column are not case sensitive. So you can have variant capitalization for 7 very cold, and it'll still recognize that it's 7 very cold. The order of the columns doesn't affect the import, and optional columns can be skipped, meaning that, for example, if you if none of the projects that you're importing has an estimated occupancy year, then that entire column can be deleted. And then lastly, all your data should be in one sheet in the file. So if you have separate sheets in one file, for example, if you have different offices and you had separated them, the system will only take information from that very first sheet in the document. So make sure it's all on that one sheet. These warnings are especially true if you're using an Excel document, but be careful either way. We encourage you to double check any automatic value formatting that may affect the inputs that you put in before saving or updating the file. So for example, columns requiring a date might automatically format differently by Excel. So double check those because you might get an error if it automatically formats. Double check the automatic formatting on the offsite renewable purchase column, because sometimes that'll default to November 15th instead of 11/2/15. Also be careful with the project names that start with an E or start with a 0 or have an E in the middle. Sometimes those are saved as scientific notation or the zeros are removed. So just to make sure that you have the correct information in there, double check that none of that automatic formatting is happening. And a last set of reminders, don't forget to match your project numbers if the project is already in the system in your bulk upload. That's what links and connects it so you can actually update that project. If you change design data, it'll create a new entry, so it won't override previous design data that you've added. But if you change anything in the project basic information, you'll override that basic information in the system. So be careful with that. Even though it's possible to add multiple design phases in one bulk upload, we recommend that you just submit the most recent design phase for that year. That's mostly to avoid the wrong design phase being submitted or any other issues in the submission process. Don't hide any extra columns or sheets that can confuse the system. Even though you can add projects with different reporting years, we recommend that you stick to a single reporting year per upload. So let's say you forgot to upload a couple of 2020 projects, we recommend that you upload those projects as a separate sheet, and then when you're ready to update your 2021 projects, do that as a separate thing. Don't mix and match the years in the spreadsheet to avoid issues. As always, double check the spelling and formatting of your inputs. I think especially the use types. Labs, for example, is written as laboratory dash recommend use of labs 21. You have to have that entire thing in there for it to recognize it. Sorry. A lot of use types have a category dash something like lodging dash residential slash hall slash dormitory. So keep that formatting in mind, because if the formatting is wrong, it won't recognize it. And then did I say this already? I'll reiterate. We recommend that you submit all of your data in a single file instead of several different files, just to avoid confusion. The system can take more than 5,000 projects at a time, so you shouldn't run into any limit issues. That's it. Thank God that's it. I'm sure I missed something. Nico is going to do the demo now, and then we'll jump into questions. But yeah.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Paula, for that. Let me share my screen real quick.
I went really fast. I hope you guys weren't taking notes. We'll share the PowerPoint and a recording afterwards. So
Let me know if you guys can see my screen there.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. I'm just gonna hide this right here. Just a little quick note, as you guys see, there's a little bit of a layout change and color changing. This is because we are on a demo site, as I believe Paula mentioned. We are on a staging site where we do our testing. There's also a little warning here that lets you know in case there's interaction with the demo site. That's why you guys may see a little layout change here. All right. We're here in the company dashboard. As Paul mentioned, the import is done through here. You can then do the submit through here, or either submit your entire portfolio through the file. In this way, we've updated the sample files. You can upload both CSV and Excel files now. And I'm just gonna do a little demo with a sample file here. First of all, we're going to go through the errors. I just want to show you a little bit of the file layout and go into a little bit more detail, and then we'll go through the errors, see what they look like, and then go through a success end-to-end flow. If you guys at any point have any questions, feel free to jump in and ask questions, or if you guys want to see something specific that I didn't cover, feel free to let me know. All right, this is the sample file that you'll be able to, download from the tool and reference in case you want to look at how it's supposed to be laid out. As you guys see, we have the project names and the project numbers all laid out accordingly.
Nico?
Yes.
Sorry to interject.
Yes.
If you're showing the Excel file, we can't see that currently.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second then. So for some reason, I'm not able to show my desktop 1, just only able to show desktop 2. I mean, the other way around, but. Can you guys see the file now?
Yes.
Perfect. But you guys can't see the X, right?
Yes.
We can see, yes.
Give me 1 second. Okay. For some reason, it's not putting both in the same. Okay, now you can see both, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry about that. All right. So here we have the 2 different project types: full building, interior only. This one, all these projects are energy modeled. We'll go through a scenario of non-energy model projects. As you can see, we have all of the project information laid out. Here we have a sample of how to display multiple use types. This one, for example, has 2 use types. The energy codes have been provided. As you guys can see here, we have, sorry about that. We have the baselines, and based off of the baselines, the calculations of the targets for these two that are interior, whole building. And then this one, which is a 25% reduction, is an interior project, interior only project. As you guys see, we've provided reporting phase and reporting year. Both of these fields are required whenever you are reporting a new phase. Leaving these empty means that you're leaving all the design data empty as well, and only updating project related information. And then only providing these two values and no modeling information or no of the remaining of the information means that you're reporting phase, but not energy modeling information. Here we provided the predicted EUI, which lets us know that the project has been modeled. As well, we are providing energy modeling tool, energy modeling party, which are required whenever a project is provided as energy modeled. Like Paula mentioned, you can provide when the energy modeling was done via the date. This is an optional field, as well as many of the other ones. I'm not going to go into all of the specific rows, but I just wanted to show you a little bit of the layout of this, and then we'll go into a couple scenarios to show you what the errors will look like, and then we'll go through a happy flow. Up until this point, do we have any questions before I dive into the application? Okay, great. So let me show you a couple of files with a few errors. We'll go first with a few of the project setup errors. So here are some common errors, very common one, project name left out either by some formatting mistake or these are all the required fields. So we wanted to make sure that we tested out all the required fields. The project status also required fields. So many of the projects need the whole information to be able to set up the project correctly. Here we've also set an incorrect office location. You'll see in the application, I'm going to go back to the company tab. You'll see we only have 2 office locations created, US office and Canada office. There we go. In here, we have a Mexico office, which has not been created. So this will fail as well. Here, if you have multiple rows, for example, with an office location that either changed its name or something, quickest way to go about it is go here, edit the office location name, or add your new office location to make sure they're matching accordingly to the, this is not the file, sorry about that. To make sure they're matching accordingly to the correct format of the file. This sample here does not have a use type. All projects must have at least one use type defined. So that's also another error that will jump in right there. We fixed all of the energy codes, added new energy codes, the energy code validation. The energy codes must be listed as they are in the bulk import guide, similar to other input values that, as Paula mentioned, we need to ensure that they're correctly spelled out and laid out as we listed them in the bulk import guide. This is one of the energy codes that we fixed previously from last year. This is the common format for IECC energy codes, is with a space and a year. Prior, we had an error with this one. I'm going to show you that now this will fail. So the correct format will be this right here. I'm just going to leave it right there. And yeah, that's about it in terms of the project setup errors. And I'm going to go and run that import. All right. So as you guys can see, project name can't be blank, row 4. That was the one that we had. Correct file again. I have so many files open. Row 4, no project name, no project status. No project name, no project status. Same with office location, as I had mentioned, the invalid energy code, the use types. Similar to this, we have other validations around the design data. I'm gonna show you guys this file here to show you the errors that we would typically encounter in the design data. As you guys see, we have a predicted EUI value. So we have a reporting phase being reported as energy modeled, a concept phase for this reporting year 2021 as a predicted UI, but we haven't provided any energy modeling party, any energy modeling tool. For predicted embodied carbon, we've provided a predicted embodied carbon value, but we haven't provided a carbon modeling tool. We haven't provided the modeling time or scopes. For interior only projects as this one, the LPD value is required. So here we've left the LPD value out. For example, in this case, we are not adding a reporting year. We are saying that we are including a reporting phase, but not saying for which reporting year we're adding it to. So I'm gonna show you guys how that's gonna look like. Design data errors. So as you guys see, the energy modeling tool, energy modeling party missing, as I mentioned. Same with the carbon modeling information. The predicted LPD value that's missing, that's required for interior only projects. All right. And I'm going to show you guys now the complete flow of that importing. I have some data that had already been created. I was playing around with it before the demo. So I'm going to do a complete import. Here is the, and I'm going to submit, as you guys saw in the original file. And there we go. As you guys saw in the original file, all of the reporting years for 2021, I have 3 projects created. Report for 2021. I already had a portfolio submitted from my testing, but this will recreate the portfolio as I submit it again. Whoa. I wonder if this is because I already had. Yeah, I think this is a little data issue that we have on our end because of the data that I was using the. Give me 1 second real quick. Let's do the following. Let's change this to 2020 just so you guys can see the flow, and I apologize for that. That's because I had junky data there. We're reporting for 2020. And I'm going to save that file there. Perfect. There you go. As you guys see, the import completed. All of the 3 projects were imported. The portfolio was submitted. I get a 3-year badge because I already had a couple of portfolios that I was testing with. If I go to the company, you guys will see the projects created here. These are the 3 projects that we had discussed. As I think I didn't show you guys, but one of the projects, and I think that's a good point to show right now. One of the projects also was energy modeled, but as Paula mentioned, instead of providing a predicted UI, we did the modeling, provided all of the modeling information, and provided fuel sources values, which are here. This will, give us the fuel source values, and the tool will calculate the predicted UI for you. This will be displayed here. If you go into the design data for that project, you can see that the fuel sources values were added here, and the calculator predicted UI is displayed here as well. And if I go here to the portfolios that were submitted, as you guys see, the projects were submitted correctly into their 20 portfolio. Apologies, I couldn't do this for the 2021. I had already submitted and was playing around with the data here. So I think we have a little mix up there with the data. But any questions so far? Matt, Paula, Charlotte.
No questions, but appreciate the demo. I think a couple of headlines, certainly Paula walked through where there are changes, and those are changes that if you are using a database to power how you arrive at that spreadsheet, there are a handful of those changes you'll need to make. That IECC-2018, putting the space there, updating Oregon specialty. Those are updated. Again, they're listed out here in the PowerPoint. It includes what change. This will be available on our YouTube. It'll also be on the bulk import help page within DDX. From there, you'll also be able to download the bulk import guide that has all of the information, the table of options for acceptable fields. Again, really strongly encourage you to reference that when you run into those errors that Nico showed us and walked through. You'll be able to find them there. Want to mention too, I know Paula's going to include it when she sort of wraps it up and brings us home, but I'll put it out here now too. Everybody on this call is available to help. So when you guys get into that reporting process, I get that urge, that sensation of wanting to go in and just sort of upload and see if it works, and upload and see if it works, and kick the tires. And that's great. You can do that. But it can also lead to a lot of frustration. I heard from a number of you guys last year. And so I want to make sure that y'all know you can email 2030commitment@ai.org. And we are glad to look at your file before you upload it. We're glad to run it through a staging server, through a sandbox environment, make sure that's going to work, make sure that's going to give you guys the results that you anticipate. Because we know you guys put a lot of time in curating that data and building those spreadsheets. So again, some of those tips that Paula hit on, I think really will help improve that reporting experience. And I hope you find that, again, a lot of the new changes that I've highlighted do help you in that. These are things that we heard from you guys. These are the calls that we got from you, the emails we got from you, the feedback we got from you. So we do hope that makes it a better experience for y'all. Nico, did you have anything else to demo?
No, unless you guys wanted to review any specific scenario or had any questions, that was pretty much it. I think the documentation that Paula put together is really great, and it's really going to help you guys with that and the sample files. I think you have a really good guide to help you guys through this. But like Matt said, feel free to reach out to them, and they can reach out to us, and we can connect and help you guys out or test it out on the staging environment prior to doing the uploads. We're more than welcome to do that.
I can't believe there are no questions.
Any border scenarios that you guys, thought of, or any specifics you guys want to ask? Feel free to do so.
This is Sam Elliott with HCM. I just wanted to say I noticed that it looks like we're able to upload Excel format files now in addition to CSVs. which I'm pretty happy about that since it won't auto correct our dates to the incorrect format.
Sam, hearing your voice, I feel like you're the one who told us to do this. It sounds really familiar, but yeah, that's a great point. The files do now accept both CSV and XLS files, so that should help with the formatting issues.
That's awesome.
This is Charlotte here. I'm curious, is there anyone on the line with us today who will be bulk importing data for the first time for this reporting year, out of curiosity? Or is everyone an old pro? Sounds like a bunch of old pros. I'm curious.
Uh,
A lot of old pros.
yeah, last year was my first year doing it. And it looks like it'll be a bit smoother this year, which I'm thankful for.
Fingers crossed. Oh, it looks like Maggie wrote in the chat that it is her first time bulk uploading. So let us know how it goes.
So I don't, mine is not really a question, just something I observed, and I missed the first 10 minutes of this call, so I apologize. But in past years, when our teams haven't done anything with their projects and are reporting them, and they're not giving me a baseline, so I leave the baseline blank with the intent that I can use the target finder tool embedded in the DDX to come up with the baseline for those teams. And that hasn't worked because if you don't provide a baseline, you can't batch import. So what I've done in the past is put in a baseline of 999 into the ones that don't have a baseline, and then go in to the DDX and update those using the target finder tool. Which, it works. And I find whenever I do batch importing, that batch importing gets me like 80% of where I need to be. And then the rest of it is going through project by project in the DDX. It does seem conceivable that if you say your energy baseline source is the zero tool or target finder, and you don't provide a baseline, that the DDX can do that for you, as long as you indicate what your baseline source is going to be. And that would prevent a couple of errors. So just a thought, but I could put in the 999 like I've done in the past.
Yeah, great. Good to hear you. Yeah, I think that's good feedback. It's definitely something we've talked through. I think implementation got a bit the better of us, but definitely something we can keep on the docs for sort of a future improvement. And for this cycle, I think you had two good nuggets in there that I think are worth emphasizing. One is that 999, or whatever that number becomes, is sort of a good workaround to get there, to flag that, to get past that otherwise failure, right? And the second is just that note that sometimes the bulk import is good for getting you 80% of the way or 90% of the way there. And that's okay too. And in that case, you would go through the submit portfolio process, similar to how you would in other years. And again, there it's going to be pulling the most recently created record with the reporting year of 2021. So just knowing that, and that you can do that sort of two-step process, or you can bulk upload and submit your portfolio at the same time if you do have all of that information and feel confident about the spreadsheet you're uploading. So a great suggestion and some good tips, Greg.
Sure. And then the other isn't really a comment for batch importing, but a lot of firms, big firms like mine, we have our own SharePoint sites and methods for collecting the data that we export into the batch import. And it takes a lot of effort for a firm to kind of develop those SharePoint sites. So when the metrics dramatically change, or what we're recording in the DDX dramatically change, it's going to take a larger firm to kind of make a concerted effort to modify our own internal databases. And I'm not saying you guys didn't let firms know, you very well may have, I just missed the email or two. But like the more advanced notice when things change that are going to require batch importing firms to revise their databases, that's always super helpful. And again, that's where I found when there were changes that our database didn't accommodate, I was just putting in dummy values and doing the remainder of the reporting in the DDX.
Yeah, again, great point, Greg. And we did share some of the changes that were in the pipeline, but in some ways, this is sort of detailed walkthrough of what those are. Although the changes this year across the board are more incremental than the type of changes we saw last year. And I know that caused a good bit of headache for a lot of the larger firms. And so even if you're finding yourself in that position where you're bringing an export and it's still coming in, glad to work with you guys on how we can clean up and bring some of that data in line. Something like the switch from residential, non-residential interiors only to interiors only and whole building, I realize is a database switch, but it's also sort of an easy Excel manipulation from your exported data. And we're glad to work with folks who are going through that to make sure that we get the data uploaded successfully. Because acknowledge, right, you guys are sizable organizations and there are a lot of moving parts.
I actually have a question. This is pertaining to after the upload has happened. Are there going to be any changes planned for the reports tab? And if that's getting ahead of things, then I apologize.
No specifics, but very much on the docket and something we're looking at and doing in the first half of next year. No specifics, but we've heard a good bit of feedback about expanding those. One thing that I've heard a number of times, as has, I know Paula, I know the developers hear it from us. Charlotte's been with us for 3 weeks and I know she knows it, is even switching to like year-over-year views, for example. We've heard that a number of times. So yes, we're looking at it, no specifics, but it's a great question. Good to know it's front of mind. And of course, if there are specifics, right, if there are charts or graphs or insights that you feel like would make doing the yeoman's work of getting your colleagues to share that data, collect that data, aggregate that data, use that data, definitely let us know, either here, schedule one of those one-on-ones, send it to 2030commitment@ai.org. That feedback is really helpful. We want this tool to work for y'all, and I hope you see that even in some of these edits we walked through today.
Great, thank you.
Are these the final edits for 2021 reporting? Because I did a beta test last year in like January and everything worked. And then I went to upload in March and it didn't. It was a little bit like what Greg was saying. I was, frantically trying to get a hold of our programmer and change our internal database and all that stuff. So I told her this year I would ask and see if this was like the final and we weren't going to have to scramble.
Kimberly, I appreciate that there's some laughter in that question now. That's the benefit of time. We felt it too. We were in there with it. I don't think the developers, they were good sports and were calling in and saying, hey, there are changes that need to happen. Some of those I think were growing pains of switching to the new platform. They weren't planned. Our intention right now is that the changes that we'll launch tomorrow, the changes that we walked through today, for folks who are watching this video, the changes that are currently live, that is the code freeze for the reporting cycle. We are not anticipating changes. If there are changes that are going out, if for some reason we're running into issues, users are experiencing things, breaking things, we will make posts certainly to the bulk upload guide. So if you go in there, there's a failure within the system. Every time we do change the bulk upload guide, we log what some of the changes were. So that's one piece. 2, the peer-to-peer Basecamp network. 3, if you're like, this file is working, it's not working, email us, give us a call. We are glad to sort of work with you. It may be something that is a new bug that we haven't experienced. It could be something that's really easy to switch. It could be a heavier lift. And again, we don't want to put you in a position of inconvenience, but our intention is that we're freezing code, that these are the changes for the reporting cycle, and additional suggestions that come in are things we'll tackle for next year.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think I'm telling you that as much as I'm telling the developers.
So you probably covered this in the first bit I missed, but is that the new batch import guide ready to go on the DDX, and we can start planning with that?
It will be tomorrow, Greg.
Tomorrow,
Great question.
great.
Yep.
Thanks, Matt.
For the record, 12/3, December 3rd. What we walked through today, and actually I'll mention this again, what we walked through today is on the staging site. We do have two sites, right? We have a staging site and then we have a production site. The production site is the site that y'all are using. It's the site where the live data is, where we avoid manipulating or changing data, right? Like, want to protect that. The staging site is where we're testing through and working through our bugs and stuff immediately prior to production, right? So it's the sort of testing ground. We try to keep that link pretty close to us, but there have been times we're working with firms, we've introduced it. So what I would hope you guys know, since bulk upload groups are the ones who we tend to share it with, we tend to do a screen share with, the site you're looking at should have like a green header, and the URL should be 2030ddx.ai.org. If you're in that's the production site. It's where your data changes need to be. It's where data changes are going to be safe. If you're in the staging environment, it's going to have a blue banner. When you log in, there's going to be a warning message. That's what it looked like in today's video, which is why if you come back and reference this in a week or 2 weeks, it might look a little bit different. It's because you'll be on production. It's green. This is staging. It's blue. Just being kind of conscious of that, so that you don't do the hard work, put in the data, make the manipulations, and then run into it and be like, hey, where'd it go? Slightly less stable environment. So again, make sure that you are working on the DDX production site, the one with the green header, 2030ddx.ai.org.
And here's a little look at how different the staging site looks. As you guys, as Matt mentioned, it has this prefix in the URL and give a little message. The regular DDX is just regular good old DDX.
I'm hoping that we'll get a few more, am I still muted? No. Okay. I'm hoping that we'll get a few more questions. But in the meantime, let me share some of those things that Matt already kind of shared, but just re-emphasizing them. So we're here to help. The reporting deadline is March 31st. Again, I know we changed it in 2020 and 2021 because there was a lot going on, but we are trying to stick to that March 31st deadline this year, get us back on track and help us get the annual report to you guys a little sooner. If you need any help with your spreadsheet or anything else, please email us at 2030commitment@ai.org. Feel free to set up a call with us. We have our 2030 appointments, which I know several of you have taken advantage of. But if you haven't done those, they're just 20-minute appointments that you can set up at your convenience, and we'll jump online and help you through whatever it is you're struggling with. We have other open office hours that we're doing starting in January, so feel free to join those if you have questions that you want us to ask. We'll use the first bit of the time to tackle a demo or something like that, but then the rest of it is open to questions around anything, so feel free to jump onto those. And then we have the bulk import guide in the help pages for you guys to reference. There's a lot of really good information in there, and it shows you exactly how things need to be written and capitalized or not capitalized. It shows you what things are required, what things are conditionally required. So if you include PEUI, you need to include XYZ, things like that, and what things are optional. And yeah, so it's a good resource, like Matt said, and any way that we can help, we are happy to always. There is a question slide. Well, I don't want to keep you guys online if you guys feel confident that you're going to ace your bulk upload. No, just kidding. I know you guys probably need to get into it a little bit more and play around with it before you have some major questions, but I don't want to keep you online anymore if we've answered the big ones. Greg, you missed the first little bit, but we'll post this on Basecamp so you can watch it and look at the changes. And again, if anything else comes up, please let us know.
Thanks all. Thanks, Paula and Nico.
Have
Thank
a
you,
good
guys.
one.
Have a great afternoon. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.